Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're at, ladies and gents. I am Kura Isagami, and welcome back to class with another installment of my Robattle Studies 102 curriculum. It's in this particular playlist that you'll be finding a whole lot more thorough breakdowns on just the elements that make Medarot and Medarot S tick. What goes into parts, what goes into metals, how to tune it up, and anything else of the like that people may find and have some struggle understanding. That's what this particular playlist is for. This episode in particular is highlighting the heart and soul of the Medarot itself, and without anything else, if this element is not present on the Medarot, it will not move, it will not think, it will not behave. And that is, of course, the power of the metal. Now, metals for Medarot S come in one of 7 technically masteries, and that is, of course, as you see, shooting, melee, support, defense, healing, and setup, with of course special as an alternative wild card skill that you might see on some parts. Now, there is no metal that has a mastery in special, but it is something worth noting to have as a mastery that parts can come in the variety of. Metals also can also have masteries in 3 different leg types of the combination. Those leg types in particular are biped, multi, and wheeled, tank, flight, float, and sea legs. So basically, a metal will have 3 different masteries as listed in the first group, and then of course 3 masteries in certain leg types in the second group. If you'd like to see more information on those in particular, I will be releasing more videos, or there will already be videos at this time, on other breakdowns that you can consult for more information. In particular, metals will also have a nature, as denoted by the small colored crystal somewhere on the metal, and I will also have a more advanced breakdown on leg terrain and leg types to further explain that concept as well. Now that you have a metal, though, what are you going to do with it, and how exactly do you navigate that particular menu? Well, the good thing for you, my friend, is that menu for metals only has 4 buttons, including the submit and confirm button there, that big orange one on the left, and those buttons in order. Item A is to ascend a metal, which is to raise it to another level beyond its level cap, and give it more levels that you can use towards its mastery. Item B is to recycle skill levels if you have a skill recycle chip. This is what allows you to be able to kind of change levels around without having to remove levels with a downgrade chip and then reapply an upgrade to what you want. Lastly, Item C over here is to raise skill levels. This is going to be the most common button you're going to use, arguably of all 3 of these, minus, of course, the confirm button. The raise skill level is going to be the most important because that's how you designate what boosters go to what levels you want to raise. And as you see here, using the Thunder Metal as an example, it is also an overclocked metal at level 200, so 50 levels beyond its cap at 150. But you also have 3 masteries, which is melee, shooting, and support, and 3 leg masteries with biped, wheeled, and flight, with a power nature. Now that you have a metal and you decide that you want to raise it, how exactly is that going to be the case? In particular, with ascending metals, there are a couple of steps you have to accomplish first before you can go and ascend it to the next level. In particular, that first step is to fully cap the metal at its current level cap. Now, by default, a level cap on a metal will usually always sit at level 50 when you first gain a metal fresh from the game. That can include from an event or from a story mode. That's always going to be its default resting point from where you can ascend it further, or if you want to hold off on it and put more effort towards another metal. Ascending a metal will also give you 10 additional levels, so once you ascend from, say, level 50, boom, you are now level 60 on that metal. You have 10 more levels that you can give a mastery of and divvy basically however you wish. You also will notice that you also will have 3 meta forces available to you per metal. On a fully capped metal at 150 or higher, that will be 3 different types. The meta forces in order that you unlock. The base meta force you will always have no matter what level the metal is, is a team buff. This can be anything from Super Search, which is a massive boost to success at basically radar sight, Berserk, which is a power boost, Power Up, which is an all stat boost, and so on. That is always going to be your first Metaforce, is a team boost. Metaforce number 2 that you earn at level 50 will be your nuke. This can range from a full team-wide nuke that hits everybody on the enemy team, or something as simple as single targeting a particular enemy with a specific part or target in mind. Some examples would include Sonic Shot, which is an AoE directed toward the entire enemy team, or say Needle Shot as another example, which is a single target gear that automatically targets the enemy's head. So this is what your second Metaforce is, and this is the one you may use more often than not if you try to incorporate Metaforce in your team in some form or fashion. The third Metaforce you unlock at level 100 will be an added ailment. So basically this allows you to add an extra kick to all of your attacks as long as that effect remains active. That can be anything from, say, adding Thunder effect to all attacks, to Virus, to Break attribute, or anything of the like. That's typically what your third Metaforce will be. So it doesn't matter what metal you have or how you use it, you can always count on the fact you will have these 3 skills at your disposal, and it's always important to know which metals have what to help you fill in the holes on what you need to fill in your team. Now, when it comes to levels as a whole, a fully capped metal will stop at level 150. Now, the biggest and most common question I see asked, both by newcomers and even by some vets who are just coming back to the game, the biggest question they ask is, how do I divvy up my metal efficiently so that I can make the most of what it has? Now, assuming that level 150 cap, the 2 best ways that you can cap a metal is a 150-0 split, which will give you 1 mastery, 1 minor that you can balance between at any point. This is mostly for your conventional fighters and your nukers, or maybe someone that has a support skill they want to use, or a assistive skill, a non-combative skill that you may use periodically on the team but still want to have mastery in. Whereas with the true mastery will be what you plan to use them for 100% of the time. The alternative method you could raise a metal is a dual 75 split between 2 particular masteries that the metal offers. Now, you're probably asking me now, why not that 3rd slot? Why not? Because if you split 150 levels across three masteries, you're not going to have a lot of a mastery per level, and ultimately that's going to hurt your overall damage, your damage reduction, and your overall efficiency when using any kind of parts that you can equip on that metal and it's compatible with. So that being said, it's always important to try to balance your metal out relative to how you want to use it. For the most part, you almost always will give that true mastery to shooting or melee, unless it's one that has both. And then you'll give a 50 mastery or something smaller to something similar. Some examples might be, say, defense or healing, based on how you want to use them in that particular build. Now, with skill recycle chips, they don't hand these out super often in current days, but it's still always good to know that they exist. What these do is allow you to recycle the current levels of a metal without having to downgrade it and reinstall new upgrade chips. And this can be very good to save on your resources for that same reason. Like I said, they don't hand these out super often, so I would recommend not using these with frivolity. Save these from metals that you absolutely want to repurpose, so that you can make the most of what you have without wasting resources. That's not necessarily to say that collecting the part booster chips is hard, but it's always good to save and conserve on resources where you can. Now, on how to collect the skill booster chips that you use to raise metals, as well as the medallion that's required to ascend them to higher level caps, those are very easy to find in your daily dungeons list, as you see here. There's, of course, one different dungeon for each type of mastery, so you really just have to pick and choose whichever one you're going after in order to choose the one that you want to farm. If you are a MetaPass subscription holder, then all of these will be open to you at any time of the day, at any day of the week. If you are not a subscription holder, these may or may not cycle through the week based on which one you want to farm. So definitely make sure you poke your head in here and kind of keep an eye on which one's up on what day of the week, so that you can make sure that you capitalize on what day it is up and make the most of everything that you need to farm. Now, as of the April 2023 update, about a year or so at time of recording, we also had the opportunity that we can now officially overclock medals beyond level 150, much like it is in a lot of common super invasions where enemies are level 200 or even beyond. Now, granted, the way that we are able to cap medals as players will only stop at level 200, but those extra 50 levels can really come in handy if you choose to raise a level right. And how that behaves is that you can ascend it beyond level 150, like I said. There also is a brand new daily dungeon that did go out at time of release of this patch that does allow you to farm for the specialized Medarot that you can use to overclock those medals. Of course, as you see here, there are 6 different varieties, one for each nature and type of nature that a medal can possess. You can attempt this dungeon 3 times daily, so this is going to be a very long haul if you are planning to collect a lot of these to raise medals. So don't be in a rush. But like I said, it will also make team builds and medal and level spreads a whole lot more flexible. With the new overclocking, assuming a fully capped medal at level 200, this adds a whole new slew of options that you can consider looking into. For instance, one example you could consider for a fully overclocked medal is a 100 and double 50 split, which will give you 1 mastery and 2 minors across the entirety of the build, so that you use all 200 levels with nothing odd in between. This is probably going to be one of your best all-rounder types of scenarios and purposes, so that you'll have your mastery and then 2 others that you're also good at that you can rely on if you need. The other alternative is going a double 100 split, which is built much like it was with the double 75 built for hybrids and other fighters. But now that you can fully cap skills up to 100 with this, you can use this for your hybrid fighters with a whole lot more confidence than you could before. Whereas if a medal is only 150, the double 75 split is usually better saved for your supporters or your ailment fighters, or ones that really don't intend to deal a lot of damage at base or really have the intent to do any at all, and really would instead focus on something else. Now, this material, however, the Medarot, is kind of expensive and kind of tough to collect a lot of at once. So make sure you capitalize on any events or meta shops that do choose to sell it or make it available. How much you will need per additional level. Going from 150 to 160 requires 10. Very easy, very simple. Going from 160 to 170 will require 25. 170 to 180 is 45. 180 to 190 is 70, and going that last 10 level stretch from 190 to 100 or 200 will be 100 additional Medarot. So figure to fully overclock a medal from level 150 to 200, you are going to need a total of 250 of that particular Medarot to make use of. All that being said, though, just some final closing thoughts on this, and just kind of some key points to take away from this curriculum and tutorial. Medals over parts. I'm going to emphasize this and confidently state it to every single Medarot that I speak to, whether they are new or whether they are veteran. Because the best way to compare this, as I wrote in my beginner's guide, is take a look at it in this scenario. If you are doing a parts over medal in terms of what you raise first, consider it's like that noob in your Call of Duty game that really doesn't know what they're doing, but they are play-to-win whale and bought all the high premium stuff, but they don't know how to use it. As a result, they're going to be horrendously inefficient, they won't know what they're doing, and even if they do land a hit, it's not going to be nearly as powerful as it really could be. And any kind of kills they do end up getting is going to be out of blind luck more than anything else. However, if you choose to raise a medal over parts, that completely flips the lid. Instead, if you go that route, your Call of Duty game will be accompanied by your 5-year veteran and master of Call of Duty. With this, even if he's using lower rank or lower tier parts or guns or weapons, he still has mastery and an understanding enough to make the most of everything he has. As a result, even if he is using the lower tier and lower grade stuff, most of his kills will probably rival even most of the higher tier on your team, because he knows what he's doing. The important key here is medals are what determine everything. So even if your parts aren't fully raised, if you have a fully capped medal ready to go, you're still going to have a pretty good leg in the game no matter what, and you can hold your own just a little bit better than you might give yourself credit for. Metaforce does not matter. Now, if you are planning to use Metaforce in your team at some point or another, whether that means for the team buff, the enemy nuke, or the ally ailment, then you can kind of consider this and nullify this point. But if you're planning to go in just for the mastery and the nature, you don't have to worry about this. So don't let Metaforce or certain Metaforces really serve as a determiner on what type of metal that you're going to use. Consider these more of like added perks, so to speak. So if you say use the Thunder metal and you really don't plan to use Metaforce at all, well, guess what? With you now in the corner backed up to a wall, you have a full charge. Metaforce 2 is a Thunder nuke that stuns everybody in the way, and just bought yourself a couple extra seconds of time to breathe. Also pay attention to natures. I did not cover that in this episode because I have a whole nother tutorial ready to go for that specifically, but natures more often determine not just the mastery in particular, but also how that particular metal behaves. Such as, for instance, a power nature will target certain types of parts, a hunter nature or an assist nature will target something completely different. Plus, they will also have different kinds of behaviors on how they get their passives while they're on the field. Do consult the natures tutorial once that one is officially up and running. Do also consider the bot's role in battle as you're building them. Going the 150 0 split is going to be, for the most part, your general go-to for your nukers and your main fighters. Whereas the double 75 split, on the other hand, will be more for your mixed fighters, your supporters, and your ailment fighters more than anything else. So as you're building your bot, try to keep this at the forefront of your mind so that you can know just what kind of metal to use or how you in particular want to raise it. Again, for the most part, as a general rule of thumb, if it has melee or shooting, that's almost always going to have the level 100 mastery about 80% of the time. The other 20% will kind of depend on the metal and the particular role you want to give it. Once you start overclocking metals, then you'll have more flexibility with how you want to build a metal and have much more variety in the kind of parts and builds you can use with it. On the topic of overclocking, I'm going to say this right now, don't rush it. While having that higher capped metal will be very nice to have and very good for flexibility reasons, it is going to be a long haul to fully cap a metal from 150 to 200. So push it, don't press for it unless there's one particular metal you absolutely need or want to raise, and just kind of tackle it at your own pace. My personal recommendation is collect the 250 of that particular metagist over the course of several weeks, just so you have it, and then once you have that 250, then you could pick a metal you could fully cap up just for the sake of being done with it. Or you could just collect it because you can and do a whole bunch at once. It's completely up to you how you choose to do that. But with all that being said, I do believe that covers everything for this particular tutorial and breakdown that explains the nature of metals and just how they operate, what goes into them, and why raising metals over parts is incredibly important for any Medarot to understand. That being said, if you'd like to know more, you can follow us below on Facebook at the Medarot News Network page or the Metabots Forever community on there. You can also join us on Discord in the link provided and in the comments below to keep an even closer ear to the ground on the action. Lastly, you can also reach out to me personally on Twitter at IsagamiKura. If you have any questions or feedback or comments, or have any suggestions on other things I could add to the Robattle Studies 102 curriculum, definitely reach out to me and I can try to see what I can on making that happen. Like I said in other videos, I do plan on trying to phase out my 101 curriculum because some of those videos and suggestions and advice tidbits are more or less out of date because we had a lot of changes since I first posted those, and I will start phasing those out as I post the new ones. That being said though, as always, I do appreciate you all for stopping in just as you always do, and until next time, class is dismissed, and this is your host, Kura Isagami of the Medarot News Network, signing out.